September 1809, the South China Sea, off the Pearl River Delta. Richard Glasspool, fourth officer of the British East India Company vessel Marquis of Ely, is watching the horizon fill with red sails. He will later write that it was impossible to count them. Hundreds of war junks closing from every direction, their hulls low and fast, their crews silent until the moment they weren't. Within hours, Glasspool is a prisoner. He will remain a prisoner for 4 months. He will survive on caterpillars and rice in a rat-infested hold. He will watch pirates return from coastal raids with pairs of severed heads slung around their necks, tied together by their pigtails. He will be coerced into manning a cannon during attacks on coastal settlements, paid $20 for each head his gunnery produces. He will watch entire villages burn. He will watch 80 villagers beheaded in the settlement of Sanshan, their heads hung from trees along the waterline as warnings to the next town. And before every single battle, he will receive a sprinkling of garlic water from the commander of this fleet, a personal ritual she performs to protect him from injury. She considers him a favorite. Her name, the name history assigned her, not the one she was born with, is Ching Shih. She is 34 years old. She commands 1,800 ships and 80,000 people. The Qing emperor has sent his imperial navy against her twice. She has destroyed it both times, capturing 63 warships in the first engagement and forcing the commanding admiral to commit suicide from humiliation. The Portuguese crown has sent frigates. The Dutch have sent warships. The British East India Company has sent the Marquis of Ely, which is now her property. All three have failed. Blackbeard, the most famous pirate in Western history, commanded 4 ships and 300 men. He was shot 5 times, beheaded, and his head mounted on a ship's bowsprit. He was 38 years old. Ching Shih dies peacefully in her own bed at 69, rich, with grandchildren, having never spent a single day in a prison cell. How does a 13-year-old girl forced into sex work on a floating brothel in Canton build the largest pirate empire in human history? And how does the only pirate who ever truly won, against 3 navies, against the Qing emperor himself, end up betrayed not by any of them, but by a man consumed by jealousy over who she chose to love? Before we go further, if you're enjoying this story and want more like it, hit the like button and subscribe. Every video we make goes this deep, and there's a lot more coming. Guangzhou, Guangdong Province, China. Around 1775, she is born Shiyang in one of the most poverty-ridden regions in China. When she is only 13, she is forced into sex work to supplement the family income and goes to work on a flower boat, a floating brothel, that drifts along the Pearl River. We do not know her real name in any meaningful sense. Every name the historical record gives her belongs to someone else. Wife of Zheng, widow of Zheng. Ching Shih simply means Cheng's widow. She is an absence the records forgot to fill in. Except for one thing the records cannot suppress, regardless of how little they wanted to preserve it. She is paying close attention. The flower boat is, among other things, an extraordinary intelligence operation. Military commanders discuss fleet movements. Merchants describe unprotected shipping routes. Government officials reveal who is bribing whom. The woman serving them is not, in the calculations of these men, someone worth being careful around. She is furniture. She remembers everything, every route, every weakness, every powerful man's private terror. This is her first education in power. It turns out to be sufficient. In 1801, the leverage arrives. Zheng Yi is one of the most dangerous men in the South China Sea. He comes from a pirate dynasty stretching back to the Ming period. He has heard about the woman on the flower boat. He wants to marry her. Before she agrees, she insists they sign a formal contract. She is to receive 50% control of his pirating business and a share of all profits. A woman with no legal standing, no family protection, no mechanism of enforcement if he simply refused, extracts a 50-50 business partnership from one of the most violent men on the South China Sea. Before the wedding, in writing, she is 26 years old. She has just negotiated the most consequential business contract in the history of maritime crime. For 6 years, the partnership transforms the Red Flag Fleet from a powerful regional operation into the dominant force on the South China Sea. The fleet grows from 200 ships at their wedding to more than 600 within 2 years, and eventually to 1,800. The 6 color-coded squadrons of the Cantonese Pirate Confederation, red, black, white, blue, yellow, and green, each with their own commander and their own territory, answer ultimately to the 2 people at the top of the structure. Then, on November 16, 1807, Zheng Yi dies in Vietnam. He is 39 years old. Chung Po, Zheng Yi's adopted son and chosen heir, is a 21-year-old former fisherman's boy, brave in combat, loyal to a fault. He is the legal successor to everything. He is also not a politician. Ching Shih approaches him within days of her husband's death. The proposal is precise. She takes overall command of the Confederation. He commands the Red Flag Fleet, the largest and most powerful division, under her authority. Together, they are stronger than either alone. Apart, the Confederation fractures. 60 years of pirate dynasty collapses in a season, and every rival in the South China Sea moves in. Chung Po agrees. The fleet's captains fall in line within weeks. No power struggle, no prolonged political crisis. She moves from widow to commander of 80,000 people in a matter of days, through a maneuver so precisely executed it leaves no gap for challenge. Then she does something no pirate of this scale has ever attempted. She governs. The Red Flag Confederation under Ching Shih is not a rabble. It is a functioning state with a legal system, a financial architecture, and an enforcement mechanism that operates without exception. Any pirate giving their own orders or disobeying their superior would be beheaded on the spot. Desert your post. Ears hacked off. Steal from the common treasury. Death. Rape a female captive. Death. If the relations were consensual, both executed. The financial system is equally precise. Every raided cargo is registered and distributed centrally. 20% returns to the capturing crew. 80% enters the joint treasury. Hoard privately and lose your ears. Do it again and lose your head. Villages that cooperate receive protection, real protection, enforced against other pirates as well as government forces. Villages that resist are shown what resistance costs. She is not robbing the coast of southern China. She is taxing it. She has built a parallel government over the entire southern Chinese seaboard, more reliable in its way than the Qing bureaucracy it displaces. The Qing emperor watches this from Beijing and reaches the only decision available to him. He sends the navy. July 1808. Imperial Admiral Lin Guoliang moves against the Red Flag Fleet with 35 warships off the coast of what is now Shenzhen. Ching Shih sails directly toward the government forces. When the smoke clears a graveyard of burning hulks, roughly half the Qing Navy, and several dozen captured warships taken home with them, Lin Guoliang commits suicide from the humiliation of the defeat. July 1809. A second imperial force attacks. There is no wind that day. Neither fleet can maneuver under sail. Ching Shih orders her pirates to swim and board the Chinese ships. They follow her orders and do just that. The coastal towns are then torched. In the village of Sanshan, 80 villagers are beheaded, and their heads hung on trees by the water as a warning to others. The campaign brings the fleet to within 25 kilometers of Canton itself. The total from this campaign is 10,000 dead. This is the part of Ching Shih's story that most retellings move past quickly. She is not a romantic outlaw. She is not a liberation narrative. She is the commander of an organization that kills 10,000 civilians, burns towns, and hangs human heads from trees to terrorize the population she taxes. She's also the most operationally brilliant maritime commander of her era. Both things are simultaneously true. Collapsing one to preserve the other is the attempt to make her smaller than she actually was. The emperor, out of domestic options, calls for foreign help. The joint force assembled in late 1809 is the most powerful naval coalition the region has ever seen. Qing imperial warships, Portuguese frigates armed with modern rifled cannon, British East India Company intelligence, all directed at the same objective. The Allied forces send 46 fireships toward the pirate fleet to rout them. The pirates extinguish the flames and turn several fireships back toward the Qing and Portuguese forces before escaping. She is still fighting. She is still winning. But the alliance is doing something the Imperial Navy alone could not. It is inflicting real losses. Portuguese gunnery is destroying junks she cannot replace quickly enough. And then something happens that no enemy fleet could have engineered. Quo Po Tai, commander of the Black Squadron, the Confederation's second most powerful man, is consumed by jealousy over the relationship between Ching Shih and Chung Po. He refuses to bring his fleet to Chung Po's assistance in a decisive engagement. He withholds his entire fleet from the battle because of personal jealousy. Chung Po, his decks soaked in blood, is forced to retreat without reinforcement. 3 navies could not break her. One jealous lieutenant does. Ching Shih surveys the position with the cold clarity she has applied to every decision since the flower boat. She is undefeated in open battle. She is, for the first time, in a weakening position. The coalition is too large. The Confederation is fractured. The Portuguese gunnery is too accurate. She does not wait to lose. She initiates the peace talks herself. The Qing government, desperate to end a decade of maritime humiliation without admitting they couldn't defeat a woman, agrees to her terms. And her terms are not the terms of someone surrendering. She keeps every coin of her accumulated fortune. She receives the title Lady by imperial decree. She and Chung Po retain a private fleet of ships. The bulk of her 80,000 pirates receive full pardons. Chung Po is appointed an officer in the Qing Imperial Navy, sent with profound historical irony to hunt down the remaining pirate fleets that refuse the same amnesty. She walks out of piracy at 35 years old, untouched, titled, in possession of a fortune accumulated over 9 years against the combined opposition of the most powerful naval forces in Asia. She moves to Canton, then to Macau. She opens a gambling house, trades in salt, raises children, buries Chung Po, who dies at sea in 1822. She keeps building. Ching Shih dies in Macau in 1844. She is 69 years old, peacefully, surrounded by family. Blackbeard, shot 5 times, beheaded, his head mounted on a ship's bowsprit, dead at 38. Captain Kidd, hanged twice, the first rope broke, in a London prison, dead at 56. Bartholomew Roberts, killed by grape shot to the throat on his own deck, dead at 37. Calico Jack, hanged in Jamaica, his body displayed in a gibbet cage as a public warning. Anne Bonny vanishes from the historical record entirely. Ching Shih dies in bed at 69, rich, with grandchildren. She is the only pirate in recorded history who won completely, who built the empire, fought the battles, survived the betrayal, negotiated the peace, kept the money, and died on her own terms. History gave her a name that means widow. She turned it into the most feared brand on the South China Sea. Everything after the flower boat was just execution. Ching Shih built her empire by understanding something every navy she faced did not, that the most powerful position is not the one with the most ships, but the one with the most information. 3 centuries earlier, on the other side of the world, a woman from the west coast of Ireland reached the same conclusion in a different ocean. Grace O'Malley commanded a fleet of 20 ships along the Atlantic coastline, raided English settlements, imprisoned the heir to the Howth earldom when his gates were closed at mealtime, and then sailed to London to negotiate face-to-face with Elizabeth I, one queen to another, neither one willing to blink first. The meeting lasted 2 hours. O'Malley got everything she asked for. The story of how the most feared pirate on the Irish coast walked into the court of the most powerful woman in Europe and left with a deal is one of the most audacious negotiations in recorded history. And unlike Ching Shih, she did it in her second language. That story is next.